Hi guys, this is Esmeralda.
And I'm Monty, Rainey.
And I am here today at Trinity Title. They've been most gracious to let us borrow their room again. And we're at REI Leverage. And for you guys that are watching the show for the first time, please feel free to like it and share it. And if you have any questions, always feel free to put your questions at the bottom of the comments below and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Okay? With that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's topic is about feasibility studies, okay? And not everybody out there knows what feasibility studies are. So I'd like to go ahead and let Monty get started with his background. And what is a feasibility study? So you want to let us know?
Esmeralda, yes. Any type of development that you're looking at doing, whether it be self-storage, which is what I specialize in, or an apartment complex, or a triple net lease space, or anything like that, you want to know before you ever purchase the land, is this going to be a wise development decision for this piece of property? If you already own the land, then you really need to know the same things, but especially if you're looking at purchasing a piece of land, before you buy that property and make that investment, let's make sure that you can use it for what you think you're going to be able to use it for.
Okay.
So a feasibility study looks at a number of different things. It's going to look at what the demand for the type business that you're putting in there, or what that demand is going to be. Ultimately, it's going to be a full portfolio that you can then take to a lender and say, this is what I want to do with this property. This is what I believe my construction costs are going to be. This is going to be my return on investment and the whole thing. So you have a pretty good idea when you sit down with your lender to say, okay, this is how much money I need. What can you do for me? So,
okay.
And most lenders are actually going to require that you do have the study done before they're going to loan anything on.
Okay, so for the people out there who don't know, you have to get the property under contract first,
Yes.
and then they would contact you, and then they would contact the lender because you have to have the feasibility study when you sit down and talk to the lender.
Correct.
Wow, that's kind of tough. So
well,
it all has to happen at the same time.
Right. It's all part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you do feasibility studies here in Texas or?
One of the nice things about technology today, Esmeralda, is we can do a feasibility study for anywhere in the country. I've done feasibility studies in California, Kansas, North Carolina, all over. But
okay.
predominantly, I do work just here in Texas. That's where most of my contacts are. That's where most everyone knows
me. So you don't necessarily have to drive out to the site?
It can be helpful at times,
okay.
just to put eyes on a piece of property and kind of see a little better idea of the layout of things, but it's not critical.
Okay. My next question is, what does a feasibility study entail? Because for a lot of people out there, what does it?
That is a great question. Most of the companies that do feasibility, in fact, all companies that I know of that do feasibility studies, when you hire them, you're going to get a full package, and it's going to be everything from the very first step of looking at the property all the way through providing you with a pro forma budget.
Okay.
I think, from my standpoint, I'm looking at the investor and I'm thinking, okay, I'm here to build a relationship with this person. So I take a little bit different approach. I don't want to waste this person's money. There's no reason for you to be paying me to spend my time putting together construction cost, a pro forma budget, and all that until we determine for certain that that's the kind of project that you want to build.
Okay.
So I break my feasibility studies down into two different sections. Phase one, we look at the demographics. We look at what the projections are for that area. We look at what's already in the market, what your competition is going to be. I actually go in and get measurements, capture the square footage of all available self-storage within a market.
Okay.
And then that's going to tell me what the ratio of square footage per capita is going to be. And of course the markets vary a little bit. And in most urban markets here in Texas, we're seeing that most markets will support anywhere between 14 and 18 square feet per capita.
Okay.
Now, of course, in a more rural market, that number's going to decrease some. But that's kind of the metric that we use to go by. So we want to look at that first and determine, is this market going to support self-storage? And if so, how much? I mean, you don't want to go in and build a 100,000 square foot facility if we find that the market's only going to support, a property that's half that size.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So it does demographics, population growth, and how big of your unit do you need in that area, or can you can build in that area.
Right, and of course we look at other things, you know, like visibility and traffic flow and all of these, the economic metrics.
I was going to ask you about the traffic flow.
Traffic flow is of course it's important as in any business, but thanks to these guys anymore, our smartphones, it's becoming less and less important. You don't have to be as visible today as you did 10 years ago.
Okay.
We're finding in many markets, we're finding upwards of 80% of the people who come into our office found us on their smartphone. So
that's a very good point that he just said, because if for you investors out there, you can buy a property that's off the road, not necessarily, it doesn't have to necessarily be seen from the road, but it can be off you know, a couple blocks away, right?
Right. And don't get me wrong, you know, interstate frontage is great. Major highway frontage is great.
But it costs more money.
But it costs more money, you know. And if you're looking at, you know, I can go 2 blocks off of this main thoroughfare and get land for 30% of the cost of what the frontage is going to cost me. Might be something to consider.
Okay. And who are your clients? Most of the clients that call you, who are those clients?
Well, most of the clients that I have are going to be new to the self-storage industry. They know that this is a fantastic investment and they want to get involved with it. I will have some clients that already are in the self-storage industry. They're already owners and they're looking at expanding their business. They've done very well and now they're looking for a new market to break into.
Okay. So a lot of them are existing self-storage owners, but
Yes.
you get some new ones as well?
Yes, quite a few new ones, absolutely. This is just such a lucrative industry right now, and one of the greatest things that happened to and it sounds terrible to say this, but one of the greatest things that happened to the self-storage industry was the real estate crisis of 2008. That really got people focused on self-storage because they saw all of these different sectors of the real estate market really just go in the tank except for self-storage, and they saw us just steadily going along. And so after that, then lenders started opening up and more investors that never thought about looking at self-storage before. They saw, hey, this is something I need to take a look at.
Okay. And I know we talked about this earlier. Can you talk about the range of costs for a feasibility study, and when do they call you?
I certainly can. As I said, most companies, every other company that I know of, they're going to do a full package,
okay,
all at one time, and that package is going to run anywhere between $8,000 to as high as $20,000.
Wow.
Yes. Again, I'm trying to build a relationship with that investor, so I don't want to waste your money if, you know, until we need to focus on this aspect of the feasibility study. So by breaking it into 2 parts, I charge $4,000 for phase 1.
Okay.
If the decision is then made to move forward with the development, phase 2, I do that on an hourly basis. And the reason why I do that is because every project's different. If I have to just go in and, let's say we're looking at just doing a covered boat and RV storage facility,
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to take much time. I don't have to spend a lot of time working out the material costs and all that. Where if it's a mixed development that's going to have some boat and RV parking, it's also going to have some non-climate storage and some climate controlled storage, maybe even some office warehouse spaces. It takes a little more time. So that phase 2 can range anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 typically. It just depends on how much time I have to put into doing that. So you're looking at total cost for phase 1 and phase 2 feasibility somewhere between $5,000 and say $6,500.
Okay, so that brings me to another question that just came up. So when an investor gets a property under contract,
Mm-hmm.
not only is it going to take that earnest money to get that property tied up, but it's going to take the money up front for a feasibility study when they don't even know if it's approved for that loan.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so
yeah.
that points
Which
out.
again, that's another one of the reasons why I've broken it into 2 different phases. I don't want to have to charge someone, you know, $6,500 to do a full feasibility study for them only to find out, hey, this is not the best use for this land.
Okay, so my next question is what types of things does the lender look for in a feasibility study then?
Well, the main thing that they're going to look at is they want to see how soon can this property cash flow. That's one of the first things they want to look at.
I think we all like to know that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's one of the first things. They want to know that the market, that there's enough sufficient demand in that market to sustain that property. They want to know that there's not already 7 other planned developments coming in within say a 5-mile radius. So. And we look at all of that. We look to see, who else is getting into this market.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. So do you talk, is there a point system that, I know you mentioned a point system the other day. What do you want to share with us?
There actually is. I've brought a recent feasibility study, and and I will actually I'm just going to skip over this. I want to go to this, the system that I use. I have put together different metrics that I look at, what I call the feasibility score sheet. And I look at 8 different metrics. I look at the site access, as we talked about. I look at the site visibility, and I'll actually send this to you so you can attach this. I know it's impossible for folks to see this at home. But I look at site access, site visibility, traffic count, demographics, projections, market demand, competition, and developmental conditions.
Correct.
So each one of those metrics are going to get a grade. I score those from 1 to 10. I try to put these feasibility studies together in the most objective view I possibly can. So I want to look at each one of these different things. And even though one particular item may not kill the deal by any means, just like what we talked about earlier, site visibility. A few years ago, if I were doing a feasibility study, I would want to see that number be a minimum of a 6.
Okay.
Well, today it's not as important as it was a few years ago. So if all of the other metrics look very strong, they're all 7 or 8s or even 9s, but your site visibility is, say, a 4. Well, that doesn't necessarily kill the project. That just means the approach that you're going to take if you do decide to develop it is going to need to be a little bit different. You want to definitely put a very strong emphasis on bringing in a good web developer that understands SEO techniques and is going to optimize your website so that people can find you easily.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, but each of these things, we give them a grade, and typically, well, this particular feasibility study that I did, this project held a total score of 57 with an average score of 7.1. It's an outstanding opportunity. So any time that we see a total score that is above 50 and it has no individual scores at 4 or below, we consider that a strong development opportunity.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. And how long does it take you to do some of these feasibility studies?
Well, unfortunately, I don't do this for a living. My primary function is third-party management, so most of the feasibility study work that I do actually ends up evenings and weekends. So sometimes it takes me a while, but I usually, if I don't have things already on the books, I can get a feasibility study done typically in 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to add to that report?
No, not really. Like I say, I will send you a copy of one, and so you can attach to this file if folks want to look at it, just to get a little better idea.
Shade out your clients.
Sure, certainly. We'll redact the actual investor in this particular project.
Okay, so as he mentioned earlier, Monty also does third-party management of self-storage facilities. So that's another topic that I'd like to bring him back for. But that's what he does full-time, and he's now an investor as well, right?
That is correct.
We just can't talk about those deals, but he's also an investor in self-storage, and it seems to be very well. So
it's going very well. It's slow, of course, as always with any acquisition or development. It always seems to take longer than you anticipated.
You want to tell him how to reach you?
Certainly. Again, Monty Rainey. I'm with RPM Storage Management. My website is rpmstoragemanagement.com, or you can reach me personally through my email, rpmstoragemanagement@outlook.com, or you may phone me at any time, 830-832-9496.
Okay.
I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Esmeralda.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Again, if you have any further questions, you can always get a hold of Monty, or you can give me a call, but put your questions in the comments, or you can just call him directly. We're here to help. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.